Okay, imagine a global financial revolution, one that promised to make millions of dollars for ordinary people, just like you. Now, what if I told you it was all a lie? A $4 billion lie, all cooked up by one woman who then just vanished. Let's dive into the absolutely wild story of OneCoin and its missing leader, the so-called crypto queen, Dr. Ruja Ignatova. So this was the vision, right? You could just hear the confidence in her voice. Dr. Ruja wasn't just aiming to create another crypto coin. No, she was selling this huge, world-changing dream. She called it the Bitcoin killer, and she promised it would make its believers incredibly rich. And you know what? For a while there, millions of people totally bought it. But today, that visionary leader is completely gone. Instead of running the world's biggest cryptocurrency, she's one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. There's a $250,000 bounty on her head. So how on earth did we get from this revolutionary promise to one of the biggest international manhunts in the world? To really understand this whole scam, you have to start with the sales pitch, because honestly, it was brilliant. It was seductive, and it was perfectly timed to take advantage of that crypto craze that was sweeping the globe.
And this was the character she created for herself. Dr. Ruja was presented as this absolute genius, right? She had credentials from Oxford, she'd worked at the super prestigious consulting firm McKinsey, she was charismatic, always dressed to the nines, and she spoke with this incredible authority that just made people feel safe, Safe enough to hand over their life savings.
And her message, it was so simple yet so powerful. OneCoin wasn't for all the tech geeks and coders. No, this was for everybody. This was your shot. If you missed out on Bitcoin, this was your second chance to get in on the ground floor. She wasn't just selling a coin, she was selling hope, a ticket to financial freedom.
And the world bought in, big time. We're talking about more than 3 million people in 175 different countries. Think about that. From major cities in Europe to tiny rural villages in Uganda, people were pouring their money into the dream Dr. Ruja was selling. The scale of this thing was just staggering. But of course, behind all the glamorous events and the promises of untold riches, there was a very carefully designed fraud. So let's peel back the curtain and take a look at the actual machine that was powering this lie. This really brings us to the most important question, the one question that makes the entire house of cards just collapse. Was OneCoin even a real cryptocurrency? The answer, in a word, no. Not even close. No, what's really fascinating here is how simple the deception actually was. You see, real cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin run on a public, decentralized technology called a blockchain. It's kind of like a public notebook that anyone can look at to verify transactions. OneCoin, it had none of that. It was just a private SQL server, basically a glorified spreadsheet. They controlled everything. They faked the transactions, and they just made up the price themselves. It had nothing to do with crypto. So if it wasn't a real currency, how in the world did it spread so fast? Well, it used a classic multi-level marketing, or MLM, structure. See, you didn't just buy OneCoin. You had to buy these so-called educational packages. But the real money, that was made by recruiting other people to buy the packages. This turned every single investor into a salesperson, creating this viral network of people selling a lie to their own friends and family. And at its core, when you strip everything else away, OneCoin was just a classic Ponzi scheme. The commissions and the profits people were seeing on their accounts, it wasn't coming from some revolutionary new technology. It was just money from new investors being used to pay off the earlier ones. It created this powerful illusion that everybody was getting rich.
This wasn't some victimless white-collar crime. When that illusion finally shattered, it left a trail of complete financial and emotional devastation all around the globe.
The numbers are they're hard to even wrap your head around. Investigators estimate that at least $4 billion was stolen from people who believed in the OneCoin dream. $4 billion.
And this quote, this really just illustrates the human tragedy behind that number. This is from Jen McAdam, a Scottish woman who invested the inheritance she got from her late father, who was a hard-working coal miner his whole life. She, and so many others like her, weren't greedy gamblers. They were just regular people looking for a safe way to secure their family's future. And the damage was truly global. In Uganda, whole communities sold off their livestock and land to invest. Families all across China, Brazil, Vietnam, they lost everything. The scheme preyed on the vulnerable and just left them with nothing but debt and complete heartbreak. So as investigators all around the world finally started closing in, the pressure was really mounting. And in late 2017, the crypto queen performed her final and most shocking act.
a disappearing act.
So what was the final trigger for her escape? This sounds like something straight out of a spy movie. Apparently, she had her own American boyfriend's apartment bugged, and through those secret recordings, she found out he was cooperating with the FBI. She knew the net was closing in fast. The game was up.
This timeline shows her final days in the public eye. After learning about the FBI investigation, she throws one last gigantic lavish yacht party. Then, on October 25, 2017, she boards a budget Ryanair flight from Sofia, Bulgaria to Athens, Greece. And then, poof, she was gone. She has not been seen or heard from since.
The OneCoin story is, well, it's an absolutely shocking tale of deception, but it's also a really powerful lesson for all of us. If we can understand how it worked, it can help us spot the warning signs of the next big scam.
So, what are the huge red flags we all need to be looking for? First, any promise of guaranteed high returns, run away. Be really suspicious if there's intense pressure to recruit other people. A massive red flag is if you can only trade on their own private internal exchange. And pay close attention to how they handle criticism. OneCoin famously just called any critics or doubters haters to try and isolate their community from the truth. You know, this quote from the BBC's documentary on the case, it just perfectly captures the whole sick irony of it all. Ruja Ignatova took the language of decentralization, of giving power back to the people, and she used it as a gimmick to build a completely centralized system designed for one purpose and one purpose only, to plunder their wealth.
And that kind of leaves us with this one final chilling thought. Dr. Ruja Ignatova is still out there, somewhere in the world. And while her specific scam has been exposed, the tactics she used, they're as old as time. So the question isn't just where is the crypto queen, it's what new, exciting, revolutionary idea will be used as the face for the next great fraud.